The Valorant map pool has always been a controversial topic ever since newer maps started coming in. Some people like the variety it brings, while others think Riot is going too far when it comes to making each map different and unique from one another. I'm no expert in map design, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but what I do want to talk about is how the map pool works and why Riot is going to stick with the current system they have right now, which is the random selection method. For those that don't know, the way the current map selection system works in the game is that you simply don't have a choice when it comes to playing maps both in casual and competitive when queuing for a match. The game picks a map for you and all you can really do is either stick with it or dodge it for a chance at getting a better map. Ranked also has another restriction where it uses only 7 maps picked by Riot themselves for the pro scene. This is to help keep Ranked fresh while not overwhelming players with so many callouts and metas just to be competitively viable. Riot did double down on the competitive map pools during the end of 2023 as the competitive map pool would be the map pools for the other modes as well, but they are reverting this and it probably is reverted by the time this video is up. So basically it's reverted with the recent patch, which is what sparked this conversation in the first place. Even though Riot is reverting it finally, some people were still hoping they would see something like a map veto system like what you would see pros do before a match, or a pick your map system like what you would see in CSGO, simply because some players don't ever want to play certain maps ever again. Well, I'm here to burst your bubble and tell you that neither are gonna happen, at least not for a long while. I can already see some of you hate commenting, calling me a Riot rider, saying I don't like improving the game, how I just hate fun, but there's actually logical explanations as to why it won't be coming soon. First is population issues. If you allow players to pick their maps, certain maps will just end up slowly becoming unplayable. There's a clear bias towards the launch maps since they have more playtime with them and some of them have aged better than others. If you give players the option to pick those 4 maps, 9 out of 10 times they're only going to play those 4 maps. Over time, the newer and less popular maps will lose players and queue times will slowly go down. This then causes a snowball effect. If the population goes down, people will lose their patience and pick the more popular ones just so they can play the game. And the more people do this, the lower the population goes for those maps, the longer the queue times become, then it hits the point where queuing for anything that isn't the big 4 becomes pointless unless you're willing to wait 30 minutes. On top of that, any new map Riot releases would be dead on arrival since everyone would be too scared to queue for it. So a pick your map system, forget it. Not happening. How about a veto system, you may ask, as that increases the chances of having variety while giving players choices. That still won't do since there's still a bias for the big 4. If you give players the option to vote off maps before a match, which maps do you think people are going to vote off first? I'd be very surprised if it weren't at least half of these maps, which also means that these maps will rarely be played for most people. Another major issue with this is that you end up never learning any of those unpopular maps, so when the off chance of getting one of these maps happens, either you or your teammates are essentially headless chickens unintentionally throwing the game, and you just end up being more miserable than you were with the current system. Both systems would also be really bad in ranked, as people would abuse each system to pick their maps with the highest win rate and climb to the top without learning anything because they don't want their climb to be ruined by a map they're not familiar with. If you don't believe me, take a look at what happened in CSGO. People would just pick the good maps or the maps they play best with and use that for an easy climb. The opposite technique existed too. I'm sure some of you remember Vertigo Globals. These guys took the least popular map, which was Vertigo at the time. No, not this Vertigo. This Vertigo, learned every abusable technique the map had, only queued for that Vertigo, and just dunked on people that knew nothing about it to get to Global Elite, which was the highest rank in the game. Even in Premier and Face It, people would just vote out everything that wasn't Mirage or Inferno, and the game got really stale because of it. The next topic only applies to ranked players, but I also hear that Riot should separate what the pros use from ranked since not everyone wants to go pro. I do understand that, but Riot wants everything under one roof. Ranked is and should be one of the official paths to pro. Yes, Premier was made for that as well, but that's for already established teams ready to qualify for challengers like a college team or an org that wants to get into Valorant with a fresh roster. The overwhelming majority of current and upcoming pros started in ranked and grinded to the top, which got them noticed by teams and organizations. Even for the average gamer, those that that don't have the desire to go pro or even have a chance at going pro, it's still good to keep ranked linked to pro play, as having everything under one system gives you a more accurate measurement of your skill. If you're gold or plat, you're average. If you're bronze, you're below average. If you're radiant, you're a top percentile player. Again, in CSGO, they separated ranked from pro play and it messed everything up beyond repair. Global Elite, which is the highest rank, means nothing now that FPL and Rank S and ESEA exist, and the fact that this is still an issue in Counter-Strike 2 is just embarrassing at this point. The random map selection and force-feeding maps objectively works better. It gives players plenty of opportunities to play all the maps and keeps the experience fresh. Even for the maps that are actually bad or ones you simply don't like, you'll still have a chance to win on said maps because the game forced you to play them multiple times already. You should already know what to expect. Some of you might say, oh well, Riot, they should just make better maps because if they were better then we wouldn't have this issue in the first place. This might be a hot take, but a good map is subjective between players. You may not like Fracture or Icebox, but a lot of people clearly do, and their fun shouldn't be ruined or rendered impossible simply because other people will rather play the other maps. Again, I don't want to touch on map design too much as that's not what this video is about, but the point is that what makes a good map just depends on who you are. For example, I still remember the days when Fracture was hated by pretty much everyone when it first released, and don't pretend you weren't one of those people. I know every single one of you hated Fracture at one point. Don't pretend you weren't one of those people. And myself included, the idea of having 2 attack spawns really did mess with me at first, but instead of bitching and moaning on the internet, I just took the time to learn it, and I ended up getting easy wins because I actually took the time to learn it, and it's since grown on me. The thing is, when Fracture left, now everyone wants it back, praising it like it was the best thing to happen to the game. And the same thing happened with Pearl. Everyone hated it at first, everyone dodged it. The moment it left, everyone wanted it back. Hell, even Haven got this. The idea of 3 bomb sites was a turnoff for a lot of people. The moment it left, bring it back, Riot. Why'd you remove it in the first place? And I bet my left testicle that the same thing is going to happen with Lotus and Sunset. I will say though, Breeze is really the only universally hated map, and it's the reason why they're taking it out of the map rotation for ranked so quickly. Everything else is pretty subjective between players, which is why any form of choice when it comes to maps simply won't work in a game like Valorant, as it would make the game more stale and would lessen variety as time goes on. Maybe we can have another discussion about this 5 years from now or whenever the amount of maps doubles, but until that day comes, what we currently have is best for the health of the game. So that is going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on the current map pool, how it works for both casual and competitive? What's your guys' favorite maps? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll talk to you all later.